Have you ever wondered why a father who once called his daughter a miracle suddenly disappeared completely from her life for 12 long years? What really happened during those 11 fateful days when Katie Holmes made the most dramatic escape in Hollywood history? Could it be that mysterious and ruthless rules of an organization behind the scenes built a wall that separated them forever? Or is there an unspoken anguish behind that coldness? Today, we won't be talking about blockbuster movies. Instead, we'll be discussing a real-life script that's even more dramatic and heartbreaking than anything on screen. But before we reveal this secret, don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, and comment your thoughts. Who do you think is the most tragic figure in this story? Now let's begin. There are silences that are louder than the roar of a jet engine. There are geographical distances of only a few thousand miles, yet the emotional distance spans across an entire universe. Over the past decade, Hollywood, where secrets are never truly kept, has witnessed a strange paradox. One of the most powerful and famous men on the planet, someone who can swing from skyscrapers in Dubai or ride a motorcycle off a cliff for the sake of art, seems powerless when it comes to stepping through the door of his own daughter's house. We're talking about Tom Cruise, and we're talking about Suri. But that girl is no longer Suri Cruise. At the age of 19, she made a quiet yet explosive statement. She is now Suri Noel. Changing a name is not just a bureaucratic matter. It's a rejection of a legacy. It's the answer to 12 long years of growing up without the presence of her father. How did the golden couple of the 2000s come to such an end? Why would a child once called Hollywood's princess choose to erase all traces of her superstar father from her identity? Let's turn back time to 2005. If you remember that time, you'll know that nothing made bigger headlines than Tom Cat. It wasn't just a romance, it was a cultural phenomenon. Katie Holmes, at the age of 26, embodied sweetness and innocence through her role in Dawson's Creek. She was the picture of the girl next door, a rose untouched by the dust of Hollywood. And in a twist of fate, she once confessed in Seventeen magazine as a teenager, "I used to dream of marrying Tom Cruise." And then that dream came true. But sometimes reality can be even more overwhelming than the dream itself. Tom Cruise, at the age of 43, was at the height of his fame. He was the king of Hollywood. When Tom met Katie, he boldly declared to his team, "I'm going to marry her." In just a few weeks, the world seemed to go mad. We saw them in Rome hand in hand, smiling brightly before hundreds of cameras. We witnessed the historic couch-jumping moment of Tom on the Oprah Winfrey Show. At that time, the audience was split into two camps. One side saw it as a display of passionate love. The other side felt a chilling unease. There was something excessive, too controlling, too dramatic. But no one could deny their allure. In April 2006, little Suri was born. The name Suri means princess in Hebrew or red rose in Persian. She immediately became the most sought-after child in the world. And their wedding in November of that year, at the 15th century Odescalchi Castle in Italy, truly felt like a modern-day royal affair. The cost, $3 million. Fireworks lit up the night sky over Italy's waters. Giorgio Armani designed the outfits. Andrea Bocelli sang in celebration. Everything looked perfect. But as they say, the brighter the light, the darker the shadow it casts. Behind the smiles on the cover of Vanity Fair, Katie's parents, devout Catholics, began to worry. They saw their daughter slowly changing. Katie's smile seemed less natural. Her eyes were always cautious. She was no longer the cheerful girl from Toledo, but had become the perfect Mrs. Cruise, always surrounded by strangers. To understand why Katie Holmes had to leave, we must first understand what life was like inside that cage. Suri grew up in an environment few children could ever imagine. It was a world of private jets, luxury designer goods from the moment she was born, and protection so tight it was suffocating. But with all that came strict rules. Tom Cruise wasn't just an actor. He was the most important figure representing Scientology. His beliefs influenced every aspect of family life. There were reports of Katie being required to follow the silent birth rule, a ritual that believed noise and words during childbirth would cause psychological scars for the child. Throughout their 6 years of marriage, Katie seemed to fade into the background. She rarely went anywhere alone. There were always assistants, bodyguards, with many sources claiming that these were surveillance agents sent by the organization surrounding her 24/7. In interviews, Katie seemed to repeat scripted answers. "Tom is great. Life is wonderful." But her eyes told a different story. The differences in parenting philosophies began to emerge. Tom wanted Suri to be raised within the strict framework and educational system of Scientology, just like his 2 adopted children, Bella and Connor. But Katie, with her motherly instincts and Catholic upbringing, envisioned a future she didn't want for her child. She feared that one day the bond between her and Suri would be severed if the little girl delved too deeply into that system. She feared that Suri would be isolated from the real world, becoming a tool instead of a free human being. By 2011, Katie Holmes realized she couldn't just live as a shadow beside her superstar husband. She needed to take action, not for herself, but for Suri. And that was when one of the most secretive and bold divorce plans in Hollywood history began to take shape. Tom Cruise is often praised as the king of daring action, stunts the star of the Mission Impossible franchise. But ironically, it was Katie Holmes who carried out a truly impossible mission in real life, a dramatic escape right under the nose of the most powerful man in Hollywood. Katie's plan was not a spur-of-the-moment decision, but rather a campaign meticulously crafted over months, executed with the precision of a secret agent. She fully understood who her opponent was, not just a superstar husband, but behind him was an entire empire, with a vast team of lawyers and eyes and ears everywhere. To outsmart that dense surveillance system, Katie had to completely change her way of life. She used disposable phones, burner phones, to communicate with her lawyer, ensuring that no calls were intercepted or tracked. She secretly rented an apartment in New York under someone else's name, preparing for D-Day. Little by little, she fired Tom's close staff and nannies, who had connections to the church, replacing them with people she completely trusted. Behind Katie's confidence was her father, Martin Holmes, a seasoned divorce lawyer. He was the mastermind behind this plan. From the early days of the marriage, he had inserted protective clauses into the prenuptial agreement, and now they were activating it as their ultimate weapon. June 29, 2012 became a fateful day. At the time, Tom Cruise was in Iceland filming the blockbuster Oblivion. Surrounded by cutting-edge technology and birthday congratulations for his upcoming 50th, he was completely caught off guard. Then the phone call came. Katie officially filed for divorce at a New York court. Tom later admitted that he was utterly shocked. He had no idea the storm was coming. Why New York? This was Katie's genius move. She chose to play guerrilla warfare on Tom's home turf. If she filed in California where Tom lived, the law typically favors joint custody, meaning Tom would still have significant decision-making power over Suri. But New York law tends to favor sole custody for the primary caretaker, especially when there is a conflict over religious beliefs affecting the child. Katie's demand was firm and uncompromising: sole custody. She sent an implicit message. She didn't need Tom's money, even though the $400,000 annual child support for Suri was a modest amount compared to his vast fortune. What she needed was her daughter's soul and future. She wanted full control over where Suri would go to school, what she would believe in, and how she would live. In just 11 days, an unprecedented speed in billion-dollar divorces, the agreement was signed. Why did Tom give up so quickly? Observers believe that Tom and his team were terrified of the prospect of a public trial, where personal secrets and the rules of the cult could be exposed to the light. Katie won. She gained official custody of their daughter. She had accomplished the impossible task of her life, severing the ties and removing Suri from that glamorous yet suffocating world to begin a real life. After the divorce settlement was signed, it seemed like everything would proceed smoothly with a civilized separation. But no, a cold iron curtain fell, completely dividing the worlds of father and daughter. In 2013, a year after the divorce, part of the truth was revealed through a defamation lawsuit between Tom Cruise and a media conglomerate. In the legal documents, when questioned by lawyers whether Katie Holmes left him partly to protect Suri from Scientology, it became clear that the battle was far from over. Tom exploded, but eventually had to admit that was one of the reasons. That confession felt like a knife, confirming all the rumors. This was not a breakup due to lost love. It was a battle over faith. Since 2013, the public has not seen a single photo of Tom Cruise with his daughter. No trips to the park, no school drop-offs, no vacations together. Imagine the weight of that. A father who once considered his daughter the center of the universe, who used to carry her across red carpets around the world, suddenly vanished completely from the physical life of the child. From a little girl who was embraced by her father every day, Suri suddenly had to face an absolute silence. Why, many explanations have been offered. Tom's camp often says he was too busy with his hectic filming schedule abroad. But this reason is hard to accept. Tom Cruise is the most powerful star in Hollywood. He owns his own private jet and he controls his own schedule. If you agree that Tom Cruise's absence is difficult to explain, leave a 1 in the comments. If you disagree or have a different perspective, drop a 0 below. Your opinion is an important part of completing this story. Enjoy the full video and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. Thank you so much for always being here with us. For someone who can fly from London to Los Angeles just to attend a dinner party, flying to New York to visit his daughter for a few hours is not an impossible task. A prolonged absence of over 3,650 days cannot simply be explained by the word busy. The most convincing and also the most ruthless theory lies in 2 words: disconnection. In the organization that Tom reveres, there is an unwritten but extremely strict rule. If a family member, whether parent or child, is labeled as a suppressive person, SP, someone who hinders the spiritual progress of a member, the loyal person is required to sever all contact. When Katie Holmes forcefully removed Suri from that system, she and her daughter became threats. Could it be that in order to protect his standing within the organization, Tom Cruise was willing to sacrifice his father-daughter relationship in this lifetime? While Tom Cruise continued to conquer the skies, performing unimaginable skydives and hanging from the side of planes to save the world on the big screen in New York, Suri was growing up in a world where her father's presence was a quiet absence. She went through puberty, her first crushes, and high school graduation, without her father by her side. The most significant milestones of a daughter's life, Tom was absent for them all. It was a cruel choice made by fate. Tom Cruise chose faith and his great career. Katie Holmes chose a normal life for her daughter. And Suri, the little girl standing at that crossroads, had to learn the most painful lesson of maturity, how to live fully with a massive void in her heart. If Tom Cruise was once a brilliant flame that burned everything around him with intense control, then Katie Holmes is the cool patient and healing water. That divorce wasn't just the end of a marriage. It was a rescue mission for Suri's future. When Katie Holmes decided to take her daughter and flee to New York, she did something extraordinary, even unimaginable in Hollywood. She was determined to decode a little princess. Suri, once a child born into luxury, accustomed to private helicopters and surrounded by bodyguards, was brought back to Earth by her mother. Katie resolutely discarded the controversial child-sized high heels, the designer dresses worth thousands of dollars. Instead, there was the image of Suri in jeans, a t-shirt, Converse sneakers, and her hair in a ponytail. The people of New York gradually became accustomed to seeing the mother and daughter squeezed into the subway during rush hour, hailing a taxi in the rain, or strolling leisurely through Central Park without an entourage in tow. Amidst the media storm, Katie built a safety cocoon around her daughter through her very silence. She refused all interview requests that mentioned Tom declined to sell her private life for fame. She accepted that her acting career might slow down a bit as long as she could wholeheartedly focus on being a mother. That silence became the strongest shield protecting Suri's young soul from the noise of the cult and the public scandal. Look at how Suri has grown to see Katie's brilliance. The little girl didn't become a nepo baby, a privileged, entitled child, or spoiled. Katie taught her that the world doesn't revolve around the Cruise name. She was sent to a private school but had to learn how to fit in on her own. Katie often took her daughter to do charity work, shop together, and taught her how to spend money wisely and appreciate hard work. She didn't shelter her daughter in fake luxury, but instead taught her to face the harsh realities of life. The images of Suri crying on the streets or arguing with her mother captured by paparazzi revealed something heartening. The girl was allowed to be real with her emotions, to feel sadness, joy, and teenage frustration, just like any other adolescent girl, not a lifeless doll in a glass cage. And what is the result of over a decade of perseverance? An 18-year-old Suri Cruise full of confidence. A young woman passionate about fashion with artistic talent, preparing to enter college on her own merit. Suri carries the stunning beauty of her parents, but her demeanor reflects the humility and depth inherited from her mother's upbringing. Katie Holmes has proven that she doesn't need Tom Cruise's fame to shine. The brightest light of her life was raising a strong, independent, and compassionate Suri. That, in fact, was Katie's true defining role and greatest success. The culmination of this long journey came in the summer of 2024. It wasn't just when Suri turned 18, but also the moment when the hourglass of the final legal constraints began to run out. Everything started from a high school stage in New York. In the musical, The Addams Family, as the stage lights illuminated the young girl embodying the enchanting role of Morticia Addams, the audience below, including parents and friends, noticed a shocking change right there on the program playbill. The name Suri Cruise, the brand she had carried since birth, the name that had cost the media millions to chase, had vanished. In its place, boldly printed with pride, was the name Suri Noel. Let's pause for a moment to grasp the weight of this action. Noel is Katie Holmes's middle name. By removing the last name Cruise and replacing it with her mother's middle name, Suri wasn't just changing a stage name. It was an incredibly symbolic act, a firm declaration of maturity. The young woman was openly paying tribute to the mother who sacrificed her youth, who stood alone to protect her childhood. But sadly, it was also the final decisive cut to the fragile bond with her famous father. She seemed to be telling the world, "I am not my father's shadow. I am my mother's daughter." Then the momentous graduation day arrived. It was a sunny June day in New York. Katie Holmes sat there in the parents' section, her eyes glistening with tears and a radiant smile that couldn't hide her pride. She had completed the most difficult mission of her life, raising her daughter to grow up safe and secure, shielded from the claws of public scrutiny. But the question that the world whispered that day was, where was Tom? On the very day his daughter walked across the stage to receive her diploma marking the most important milestone of her youth, Tom Cruise was in London. Not because he was busy filming life-threatening action stunts. The paparazzi lenses caught him at Wembley Stadium in the VIP section of Taylor Swift's Eras Tour concert. The contrast of images that day was brutally cruel, like a scene from a tragic comedy. In New York, Suri wore her graduation cap and gown, holding her mother tightly, closing the chapter of her childhood that had been marked by her father's absence. In London, Tom laughed and joked, exchanging friendship bracelets with fans and other celebrities lost in the festivities. That action was the final, most definitive answer, clearer than any press release. There was no secret reunion, no plan to reunite when she turns 18, as the optimistic rumors had suggested. The distance between them is not just an ocean, but indifference. Suri's 18th birthday also marked the end of the child support payments mandated by the court's 2012 ruling. Now, if Tom wants to be a part of his daughter's life, it must be voluntary. And this absence speaks volumes. There is no voluntary effort at all. And then Suri moved forward. In the fall of 2024, she officially became a freshman at the prestigious Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh, one of the top art and design schools in the United States. She chose to major in fashion design, continuing the artistic passion flowing through her veins, but in her own way, staying behind the scenes, creating beauty rather than displaying herself. The image of Katie Holmes helping her daughter move into her dormitory was deeply moving. Suri, in simple denim shorts and a t-shirt, carried heavy luggage on her own, sweat beading on her forehead, but her gaze resolute. There were no servants, no bodyguards clearing the way. She started her student life like any other ordinary person living in a shared dorm, eating in the cafeteria and staying up late to meet project deadlines. She's writing a new chapter of her life in a new city where there are no shadows of Top Gun, no glimmer of Mission Impossible, and most importantly, no longer the shadow of the Cruise name. Suri Noel is truly free. The story of Suri Noel and Tom Cruise is not just about a broken family. It is a tragic tale of sacrifice and what one gives up in the pursuit of freedom. Tom Cruise has the world at his feet. He has fame, wealth, and the admiration of billions. But he missed the moment of seeing his daughter blow out the candles on her 18th birthday. He missed her smile on graduation day. He will never know the feeling of comforting his daughter when she faces heartbreak or her first stumble in life. As for Suri, She may not have her father by her side, but she has an extraordinary mother. A mother who dared to give up a life of luxury to secure her child's freedom. And more importantly, Suri has herself. The name Suri Noel rings out like a triumphant anthem of independence. It reminds us that family is not just about shared blood. Family is those who stand by your side when you need them most. It's the one who holds your hand through the storms, not the one who lets go for an ideal too distant to grasp. Will there come a day when Tom Cruise grows older and the Hollywood spotlight fades that he will regret it? Will he try to knock on his daughter's heart once again? That is a question only time can answer. But one thing is certain. The little girl named Suri no longer needs the shadow of her father to shine. She is shining with her own light. What do you think about Suri's decision to change her name? Do you think there's a chance for reconciliation in the future? Share your thoughtful perspectives in the comments below, as each of your views is an important piece of this story. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to our channel to explore more untold stories from the world of celebrities. Thank you for listening.